Wrestlemania. It is a spectacle that rivals that of the Super Bowl. It is a childhood dream that few are men or women enough to ever get to. I have been a lifelong wrestling fan. I started as a fan of WCW, where me and my dad used to watch it together whenever we could. We liked Goldberg mostly because one time on a random episode he was getting arrested and he was in handcuffs, and it was an image that I closely associated with my dad. But when WCW eventually became the massive failure that it did, of course, I switched over to the WWF, or as we now know it, WWE. My very first WrestleMania that I can ever remember actually sitting down to watch was that of WrestleMania 21. 20 years ago, when pay-per-view was the only way to watch any big wrestling show, but let alone WrestleMania, where the TV ticket price was $60. Adjusted for inflation, that's now close to $100 just to watch about 3 hours of wrestling. Now, of course, I was only 10 years old at the time, so I have my mom to thank for paying for those. But I was a good boy, and I deserved it. And I have watched almost every single WrestleMania since, with very few exceptions. I did so mostly with my cousin Mikey. He is the closest thing that I've ever had to a brother, and for all intents and purposes, that is my brother. And wrestling has always been at the very core of our relationship, whether we played with the toys as a kid or we turned my aunt's living room into the Madison Square Garden with a twin-sized mattress just thrown in the middle of it, walking down our ramps, singing our own entrance music. And I still think to this day that I'm 5 to 6 IQ points dumber just from missing the bed. And they had hardwood floors for a majority of my childhood, so just the back of my head just going straight on that floor. I definitely could have been smarter than I am. Who knows, maybe that click in my hip that happens when I turn to my left just wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the years and years of just me and my cousin going as fast as we could with the matches, because we only had about 20 to 30 minutes before it was time to go wait for the school bus. We spent countless hours on SmackDown vs. Raw 06 playing GM mode, not even actually living the fantasy of doing the matches. We just play GM mode, trying to top the other one show, and just going on and on and on. And let me tell you, when I talk about sports game modes and just how much they have fallen off, there will never, and I mean ever, be something like SmackDown vs. Raw GM mode. It was just endless, and it was so challenging to have a better show than the computer. Truly, what happened to this? I mean, you've tried WWE, you've tried to bring the mode back, but it just doesn't hit the same. And even though we are grown up now, I turned 30 years old the day that this video comes out, hopefully. And he himself has moved to another state with his wonderful wife, as a means to eventually start a family of his own. We are full-ass, grown-ass men with full-time-ass jobs and our own outside commitments. But whenever we can, we get over Discord and watch one of the premium live events to this day, of course, with WrestleMania being no exception. And we just watch them together, just like we did as kids, just having the same amount of fun that we always have had. WWE has been the core of that relationship, and it's still something that I find common ground with strangers that become friends, and even at work, some of my employees that I would have never really have any kind of a bond with outside of a professional one. And now today, the goal of this video is to get convince at least one more person to give wrestling or WrestleMania a chance. think is probably the least important, but I think it is worth noting that WWE is really in a renaissance era right now. For a long time under the control of Vince McMahon, to be generous, WWE was kind of creatively bankrupt. Since his step away from the company due to him just being an absolute piece of shit, vile human being that deserves a special place in hell, his son-in-law, who, yes, is still his son-in-law, has taken over as the creative chief head honcho of the WWE. And it is just, although it is not perfect, and I don't think anyone will ever say that it has been, but it has just been so much more enjoyable to watch. The stories feel far deeper. The fans are actually rewarded for sticking with the story and investing their energy, their time, and even in some cases their dollar into the story. Things are actually paying off. Things are actually followed through with. And there even is a variety of the look of a main eventer today, which indicates that you're not just rewarded for being a roided up brick shithouse, you're also rewarded for being, a good wrestler. And of course, with that, this is seemingly like their business model, or their business, I guess I should say, has just absolutely exploded in the modern era. They have landed the famous, the headline breaking $5 billion deal with Netflix, which is just like, WWE is by far more successful than it ever has been, by far. No matter what metric that you want to look at, whether it's critical acclaim or ticket sales, attendance, social media views, don't let your unk tell you that it was better back in their day when women would wrestle in bikinis in the mud and Stone Cold Steve Austin, no disrespect to Stone Cold Steve Austin, would beat up a defenseless old man in a hospital bed, no matter how much of a piece of shit that old man turned out to be. But it's just such an annoying cliche. It's like Gen 1ers in Pokemon, that when someone older than 40 tries to tell you that it was better back then, trust me, it just wasn't. But that's not the argument that I want to have here today. So for the actual meat and potatoes of why this large brown man really loves this soap opera that has men and women throwing each other around and sometimes questionably low amount of clothes. First off, let's get this out of the way. It's the most annoying misconception of this sport. And that is, guys, it's 2025. I should not have to explain this to people. I don't understand how they still feel this way about this. But guys, it is not fake. It's fixed. It's not fake. There is no pad on the plywood that makes up that ring. That is a steel chair. That large white guy, scary white guy, actually slams you on your back. But these people wrestle daily, not just when you see them on TV. There are also what's called a house show or a dark show in smaller towns. They were in across the pond, and then they're heading into Las Vegas for Wrestlemania, and they did all these shows in between over the course of like less than a month. So if there's two things that I want you to take away from this video, if you watch it or if anyone watches it, one is that you should give wrestling a chance. Two, the shit is not fake. These are real people putting their bodies on the line day in and day out just for the chance to earn your respect. Because whether a wrestler is booked to win or lose in service of the story, or just for the purposes of sending home or sending the audience home happy, they are always judged. They're always judged on how they performed, whether it's by the audience or by their bosses. And sometimes it's kind of the same thing. Did they tell a good physical story in the ring? Did they execute their moves in a graceful yet believable way? Did they win over the crowd? Did they ever make the crowd believe that the winner was going to lose and the loser was going to win? I mean, this is fundamentally no different than a movie. Sure, us collectively as a species have seen enough movies to kind of have an idea of how the one that we're watching is going to end. But when a movie kind of suspends your disbelief and you're convinced, or you think for a second, oh, it's not going to end the way I thought. That's when a movie is good. When the movie makes you feel a little something, when you care about the characters, you're invested in the story, you're invested even more in the outcome. That's what makes a movie good, not whether or not it's predetermined or pre-written, because guess what? All the movies fucking are. And that is exactly how we judge these performers, these athletes, these actors. They also even do it live. There's very little spot to rehearse in a way. That's what the house shows are for. And at the end of the day, they do all this, put their bodies on their line, all the tiring travel, practicing their craft, sacrificing their bodies every time that they step out into the square and a circle, just for the chance to get the audience to care. And if they can do that enough, then maybe they will earn a spot on the coveted WrestleMania card. WrestleMania, the culmination of the whole year of storytelling, 104 Raw and SmackDown shows. WrestleMania is the culmination of all that writing, all that storytelling. It is brought down, well, now into 2 nights. These performers, actors, athletes getting rewarded monetarily, but also with just the glory of being on the grandest stage of them all. And this has particularly been interesting over the last 3 years since WrestleMania 39. It felt like the ending of the old era, and then Triple H kind of bringing us into this new era of how WWE is going to be and how they're going to tell their stories. A lot of just long, I'm talking eras of wrestling coming to an end, an era of stories and surprises that really have culminated over the last 2 years and going into a third. And that is just something you just do not get in other sports. You don't get to see, Patrick Mahomes just fighting every year to finish a story. You don't see things like that unless you believe that football is fake, but still, in theory, football, basketball, soccer, baseball, these are all supposed to be sports of parity. In any given Sunday in the World Series Finals, Super Bowl, they're all not, a story. They're not predetermined. It could have been the Chiefs versus the Eagles just as much as it could have been the Raiders versus the 49ers. I mean, I guess there would be kind of a story there, but you get my point. And even with other TV, the seasons are so short. There's 8 episodes a season, and sure, they're all an hour long. Every Raw is 2.5 hours live on Netflix, and every SmackDown now, unfortunately, is 3 hours. You just simply do not get that kind of payoff with any other form of entertainment. You don't get a man with the last name Rhodes taking down the greatest wrestling dynasty that includes names like The Rock and Roman Reigns, the NOI wrestling dynasty. You don't get a man who was forced out of the industry that he loves just due to not just hating his boss, whose childhood dream it was to main event a WrestleMania, and getting robbed of that opportunity despite being the best of the best in the world. You don't get the career-long ties and story and betrayal of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns being created to this emperor, this god king that Roman Reigns has become. But he still just can't get over how Seth Rollins stabbed him in the back 12 years ago. And then finally, you don't get Superman. Captain America himself is now the guy that wants to strip away everything that he helped build because you don't appreciate it. And these are just the wrestlers that have managed to fight their way onto their card. And for every one of them, there's 50 other tremendous talents that just never have been chosen, which is why it's so damn important. It is so easy to forget that these are not just actors or performers. These are real people who walk into this business that no one does for the money. I have went over why this job is incredibly like taxing, like from a physical standpoint, and then all the time that you spend away from your family, your loved ones, your friends. No one does this job because it's just a paycheck. They all do this because they love it. They walk in with the dream of main eventing a WrestleMania. WrestleMania is a dream for so many, but an accomplishment for so few. And that is why it matters. So I hope that you have appreciated this video, and hopefully one person, if anyone has watched it, decides to give WrestleMania 41 a chance. You can watch it. If you live in the States, you can watch it on Peacock, which is like the cheapest streaming service, on April 19th and April 20th. Or I believe if you're outside of the side of the States, you can watch it live on Netflix, or, just give it a chance. Watch a short YouTube video to catch you up on all the stories and give it a try. I hope that this green screen worked out. If not, it's just gonna be really awkward, but I really hope that it worked out. And even if if it's not perfect, I apologize. But thank you so much for watching. If you did, make sure to leave a like and comment down below your favorite WrestleMania moment ever, and maybe we can get a nice little discussion talked about that. Subscribe for future and past content from myself. Goodbye, good night. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.